What's up? Honest Abe, what's up, Dill? All right, hit me with some questions, guys. What do you got? Open forum, Lamar or Godwin PPR? I'm gonna say that you got to take Godwin higher, but if you're asking me to make a decision like without factoring in ADP, anything like that, I probably would consider Lamar. I know a lot of people don't like that answer. I know a lot of people don't like Lamar in even the high second round, but the bottom line is you flat out have yourself a guy that can win you a league. I'm not saying Godwin doesn't have that upside, or pairing Godwin with a later QB like Breeze or Josh Allen or whatever quarterback you like in the mid rounds. I'm not saying that won't lead to a potential league winning situation, but I just feel so confidently myself in my ability to get like a Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown right now, and I think what we saw with AJ Brown go fourth round value turn into now second round ADP material. We might see the same thing happening with Hollywood Brown here soon. I'm not saying Hollywood will go in the second round, but Hollywood Brown is a seventh round, eighth round guy that I'm pimping like crazy. And AJ Brown was a fourth round guy, now a second rounder. So Hollywood Brown, I think once we beat that drum long enough, he's going to go from sixth, seventh, eighth round material to like fifth round material. But my point being, if you're going to draft a Lamar and take your wide receiver later, Hollywood Brown and Lamar, I'm sorry, they crush Mike Evans and whatever quarterback you're getting later, or throw out a Keenan Allen, throw out another wide receiver that you might be taking in the second round where you can take Lamar. I would just rather have Mahomes or Lamar, preferably Mahomes, with Hollywood Brown. That's just my draft approach. And I'm not saying I don't like to wait on a QB. I love Daniel Jones. I love Kyler Murray in round 4 or 5. I love Deshaun Watson in round 5, 6. I like Russell Wilson in round 5, 6. I like all those strategies. There's nothing wrong with going um, any of those. You can win 100 different ways. Going Lamar early or passing on Lamar early, neither of those is a problem. Neither of those is a mistake. You say Lamar PPR. I do. I do say Lamar PPR. I think Lamar PPR doesn't matter. I mean, even in PPR, let me sit over in the shade more. Even in PPR, um, Godwin more value, but at the same time, selection in round 7. Anything if you say PPR, non PPR for me in that equation, in that question, it's Lamar in Hollywood or Mahomes in Hollywood. I'm getting the PPR production from that versus Godwin and a quarterback later. But I will say that a lot does depend on ADP because you can maneuver around your draft and not waste a Lamar early approach. You don't have to do that. You can trade down typically and get Lamar later and gain something out of that. So it's really important to make sure you don't just take a guy because I say he's going to be better. Or if I say AJ Brown is a top 5 wide receiver in 2020, if you go taking AJ Brown ahead of his ADP, like a lot of people are doing right now, I'm not saying it won't work out, but you're ruining all that appeal that really has you win a league if a guy like Lamar ends up being as good as I'm predicting him to be. So it's a tough thing. I think I will get Lamar, Sid says. But it depends though. Like I said, can you trade down? Can you get Lamar or Mahomes? I'd rather have Mahomes. If you can get Lamar later, I would do that. I wouldn't necessarily take Lamar where you're taking Godwin though. So make sure you know what I'm saying there. What's up, Smitty? I'm ready for some football. Great show as usual. Thank you, Mark. JP Superflex League, first 4 picks: Cook, Jacobs, Drake, A-Rod. That's great, man. That's fantastic. You're crushing that, JP, in that 14 league you're playing in right there. That's insane. COVID-19 or influenza A. I'm in Dynasty. A in Dynasty. I take. I think COVID's not gonna. I don't know. What is more dangerous, influenza A or I don't know. I don't know what version of the flu that is that maybe that wiped out a bunch of people. So I don't want to say. I don't really know influenza A. What are your thoughts on Slayton or Adam Thielen. I love both of them at the right value. I love everybody at the right value. Let me put it that way. There's not a player that I don't have a line in the sand for. Even Gurley, even Akers, even these guys, Mixon, Fournette, I'll have a line in the sand. The thing is with Fournette and Mixon and DJ Moore and Akers and Gurley, those guys, my line in the sand is so far away from everybody else's. I pretty much know I'm not going to have to draft any of those guys at all ever in 2020 or beyond. I just feel like the value there, I'm not going to see the value I would need to take that leap. Smitty, why is Justin Jefferson drafted way lower than other young wide receivers? I don't know. It's a good question. I like him a lot. I think he looks like he could really be a top 2 or 3 wide receiver from this draft class. So honestly, I think people are just worried he won't progress fast, so they're not patient. But I think if you're in a patient position, a position of patience, you can wait on Justin Jefferson and probably do pretty damn good. Should Mecole Hardman being drafted ahead of all the rookies and wide receivers in redraft? That's a good question. And I would say I don't know that I would go that far. I think CeeDee Lamb might be the best wide receiver for 2020 out of this group. And I think he might be the best wide receiver, period, out of this group. So uh, I really like CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb could be a wide receiver 3 as a rookie. I think Mecole Hardman could also be a wide receiver 3. But if I had to choose, I probably would only pick Mecole, maybe Mims, but probably Mecole Hardman over. I'm sorry, CeeDee Lamb over Mecole Hardman. I like Hardman, but you know, top 10 running backs. I'll probably do a video on that for you. I'm not going to list them all up here. You can throw scenarios at me. Um, but obviously Barkley, McCaffrey, and Zeke are my top 3, and then you've got a debate on your hands from Alvin Kamara and Cook, or Cook, Alvin Kamara, down to Chubb. Um, Ekeler, Drake are in the mix for that. I mean, I could go on, and I could probably debate it with myself. I could probably have an argument with myself live on air, and I'll probably do that. I'll flip the script. I'll do a what I call flip the script episode, where I argue 2 different points adamantly, like as if there is no other option. And maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that with the running back show. Mims will be the best rookie. He could be because of volume. I think he will be the number 1 wide receiver in New York. Therefore, he's going to get force fed. So if he stays healthy, Mims could be elite. I think Mims could be the number 1. He could be the number 1 rookie wide receiver from this class. I think CeeDee Lamb probably will be, but Mims, the door needs to be left open for that possibility for Denzel Mims, who I would love to find someone higher on him than me. Riff with the super riff. Thank you, Riff. Always appreciated, Riff. The super chats, always appreciated. Riff says redraft PPR Ekeler was top 5 until Melvin Gordon showed up. I heard you like Drake more. How confident are you? Ekeler looked amazing. Where have you got him ranked? First of all, Riff, I appreciate again the super chat. Second of all, I don't know where you heard that I like Drake more than Ekeler. Find me that piece of information. I may have answered that once or twice. I may have said, oh, I'll go Drake here instead of Ekeler, or maybe I'd split it. You're not going to find anything definitive. If you did, I was drinking a whole bunch of coffee or a couple 44-ounce Cokes, and I was amped up about one player over the other that moment. But I've been pretty consistent, I think, in telling you that if I had the 14 pick and 2 identical looking drafts that were taking place, everybody felt the same way. I'm on the clock at 14. I'd take Drake in one. I'd take Ekeler in the other. My answer is I love them evenly. They're equal. They're both my children. I will not choose which child I like better between Ekeler and Drake. I won't do it. So I'm sorry, Riff. You were misinformed when you heard that I liked one better than the other. I don't. I love both. I absolutely love both. And you can't tell me, Riff. You just super chatted, so I got to be gentle here. You can't tell me that you like Ekeler more than me. Let me just put that out there right now, Riff. We were doing a mock draft on Discord, and when you took Ekeler, people were saying Smitty likes Drake more. That's not true. Not true, Rip. This is fake news. I love them both. I love them both, bro. And I'd take them 12 and 13 in multiple drafts because I want both. I want both. So fake news. Fake news. Fake news. But I think here's the thing about Ekeler. This is what bothers me. Okay, Riff, not you, other people. This is between Riff and I right now. Riff super chatted. I'm talking to Riff. I hear people tell me these words come out of their mouth when they say, "But when Gordon showed up, Ekeler dropped off." And then I say, "Okay, let's pretend that's valid information. Where's Melvin Gordon playing football right now? He's not on the team. He's with the Denver Broncos. So what is your point?" Like people say that. They go, "Ekeler, I don't know about Ekeler. He dropped off when Gordon came back." Gordon's not there. So even if you thought that history was going to repeat itself and he'd drop off from number 4 or 5 out of all running backs in 20, that's what he scored in 2019 before Gordon showed up, and he dropped to like the 8th scoring running back, right, Riff? Am I right, Riff? He dropped from like 4 or 5 to 8 when Melvin Gordon came back after he had taken and shouldered the workload extremely well in Gordon's absence. And then maybe they laid off a little bit to keep him healthy. Like, of course he's going to see a shift in his value, but he went from 5 to 8. And Melvin Gordon's not there. That's my point. So why are people going, "I don't know, Smitty, because when Gordon came back, Gordon's out of the equation." And don't bring up Justin Jackson, okay? That's a bunch of, he's a backup. Everybody has a backup. You know who has a backup? Christian McCaffrey. You know who has a backup? Barkley. Zeke has a backup, come to think of it. Oh my God, Cook has a backup as well. Holy shit, Kamara has a backup. I just realized that everybody has a backup. Is anybody really worried about Austin Ekeler, who, let me remind you, is not going to run for 1,400 yards? He's not a 1,400-yard rusher. Ekeler is he's a 400 to 500-yard rusher from what we know. Probably going to turn and morph into an 800 to 900-yard rusher. He's going to gain about 400 yards on the ground, which is plenty to be toying around with when we've never seen him deliver a 1,400-yard season. So give me 800 or 900 out of Ekeler. And do you think for 1 second that the Chargers won't want to run the football past 800 yards? Someone has to spell him. And when he's doing double duty, his double duty, and Eckler's lining up in the flat, Eckler's catching 80 to 100 passes. We'll call it that range because we don't know what laser locking Phillip Rivers' departure will do to Eckler's PPR production. But even if we scale it back from 90 to 100 receptions all the way back to 80, that's still a bunch of work he's doing out at wide receiver, which means they need a running back to run the football. So nobody, please nobody in this chat, unless you want one of my mods to put you in timeout, suggest that Austin Ekeler is not a workhorse running back. Nobody. Please don't do that. I don't want my mods in that position. Austin Ekeler is a workhorse running back. Even if Austin Ekeler only runs for 800 yards, he is a workhorse running back. Alvin Kamara is a workhorse running back. Don't come into my live and tell me Alvin Kamara is not a workhorse running back. That is the most annoying thing I can read. I'd rather read something else. It's just that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Why? Because was Marshall Faulk not a workhorse running back? Because Marshall Faulk wouldn't rush for 1,000 yards every year? No, he was absolutely a workhorse running back. Workhorse running back does not mean you have to rush for 1,400 yards. A workhorse running back doesn't have to run for 1,000 yards. If you get a volume, a number of pure, like, starter type volume, regardless of how it's divided up between receptions and rushes, you are a workhorse running back. And I'm getting sick and tired of people saying that everybody's in a running back by committee now, that the running back is no longer the same, that everybody's in a committee, Smitty. I'm gonna make a T-shirt for that. Everybody's in a committee, Smitty. No, they're not. I can list off almost 14 running backs. Almost half of the league has a bona fide starting running back that is not sharing time. Sharing time does not mean you have a backup. Sharing time is not Austin Ekeler. Barkley is not sharing time. McCaffrey is not sharing time. Zeke Elliott is not sharing time. I don't care if they spell him. He's not sharing time. He's a workhorse. Dalvin Cook is not sharing time. Nick Chubb is not sharing time. Nick Chubb is not sharing time. He might get hurt, and Kareem Hunt's going to go on fire, ignite on fire, and run into 2020, saving your fantasy season. That could happen. But Nick Chubb is not in a committee. What are we at? We had Barkley, McCaffrey, Elliott, Cook, Kamara. Kamara's not in a committee. Don't even say it. Cook, Kamara, Chubb, Jacobs, Ekeler, Drake. Help me out. Who are we at? Where are we at? I'm kind of blanking on all the names I'm reading off. There are so many running backs now, to even like the guys like Mixon, even Leonard Fournette, even hit me with some more names, guys. There are about 14 players I think I could come up with that are not in a committee. And the people suggesting they're in a committee are just defining it how the hell they want to. And that's okay. You can define things however you want. On my show, I'm defining a committee differently than those people. Carry On is in a committee. Sorry, Riff, but Carry On. If you look up committee, running back by committee in the dictionary, it may not even have Carry On Johnson listed. It might be. I hate to break that to you if you're a Carry On owner. Riff's a good sport. I love Riff. Not only is Riff super chat, he's a good sport. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor currently will be in a committee, and so will Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but they won't be by mid-season. So I'd even remove those two from the committee list because I'm in the anticipation game. I'm in the bold predicting game. I'm in the prediction business, and I'm telling you right now that Jonathan Taylor and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are the starters for their team. They're just going to need time to absorb the offense, pass protect, get meshed with that team in the offense and the quarterback, and get on the same page with everybody before they can take over the full role. Miles Sanders isn't even necessarily in a committee yet, but the Eagles do. That would be a player on the fringe that currently looks like he's not in a committee that I would be worried about falling into a committee. They almost signed Carlos Hyde. They didn't. Now everybody's breathing easy. People are DMing me like crazy going, Smitty, oh my God, you're going to be right about Miles Sanders. People are going to be saying sorry to you. And they didn't sign Hyde. Hyde wasn't really that big of a threat. Like I DM people back going, look, chill, bro. I'm not like thinking I'm 100% right because Hyde was considered. Hyde is a good running back, but he's not like that big of a threat. And even Devonta Freeman isn't that huge of a threat, but Devonta Freeman landing in Philly is going to be something that could cause some controversy or a split of carries. Now, the thing about Miles Sanders, Cade says that Miles Sanders isn't in a committee. He isn't right now. Who's he got to compete against? Boston Scott? Like, I think Boston Scott will take some time, but Boston Scott falls in that same category of Justin Jackson. Okay, so Boston Scott can't be considered a committee guy. So I'm with you on that, bro. I lean and fall more toward the believing in Sanders side each day that they don't have a running back in place. But if they do bring in Freeman, as much as everybody wants to rip on Freeman and say Freeman is done, look at Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack is in a committee. What if they traded for Marlon Mack? Who knows what the hell is going to happen? But if Sanders enters 2020 in the current situation that he's currently in, I will be more on board with saying Sanders probably is less of a risk than I've been implying all offseason long. But I am also, again, in the prediction business, and I'm predicting to stay away from him at second round value and start believing in him and taking on the potential risk that Philly could screw this up at third round value. It's acceptable. So you'll have to go out there and find you'll be able to find people say or find clips of me saying that I don't like Miles Sanders in the second round, but I do like him in the third. around a little more. So you're not going to find flat out he's a bust, type prediction out of Sanders. You're going to find stay away at this value, stay away at that value. Mark Ingram is currently not in a committee, but that could develop. JK is that good. What's up, Delvin? Jose, it's too early for this. What's Jose asking? What do you think about picking Helaire at 1.12 or 2.1 turn? It's not too early for that. If Helaire is if you're talking about dynasty, I would take Helaire at as high. Where I try and grab Helaire though is 2.12 in dynasty. I try and grab him like at 3.01 to 3.05 in redraft. I'll have to see where, because I'm drafting with you guys. I'm so high on Helaire. I don't know where his ADP is anymore because of all of you mofos sniping him in mock drafts that we do, taking him way too high. It's fun. I love it. I love that you guys are behind the Clyde Edwards-Helaire hype, and I appreciate all of you. And you guys know I appreciate you. But I do think that we're driving the price up on him, and we're also kind of confusing where the ADP could possibly be because, taking him at 2.01 is probably a little crazy. I think he can earn it. I think he could be a top 5, play. So stay away from Singletary unless you get him late. I could understand that concern, JD. Is that your neighbor's backyard on fire? No, it's a mister. That's a mister, buddy. Do you think throwing a dart at AB is worth it in the draft? Sure. I mean, when you're talking about the tail end of the draft, why not? Why not? I do. I think he's worth it because there's all kinds of talk about him signing. Whether the NFL actually allows it to happen is one thing, but definitely worth a dart throw for sure. Uh, Clyde Edwards-Helaire to me is a top 5 running back. I think 2.01 is not too high. It's not too high. I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Dynasty at 2.01 if I had to, but know that I'm using ADP to my advantage at every turn. I plan to figure out where he's going to go on the regular. I've done a bunch of Dynasty mocks, and he's falling to 2.12 because I didn't have a choice but to wait on him because I had the 1.01 or the 1.02 pick in a mock. And then I'm like, God, I hope Clyde doesn't go. When I'm drafting with a bunch of you regulars, he never lasts past 2.04 at all, ever. But when I'm drafting with more, I would say, not newbies to my content, but like, interested in my content, follow me, but don't follow every mock draft I do. I find that Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Dynasty has fallen to my 2.12 pick, my last pick in the second round, or 2.10. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on the regular falling about there in Dynasty in those formats, in those environments. But when I'm drafting with you diehards, he doesn't. And so I don't really know where his ADP is. I don't really know where I'm willing to reach yet because I want to reach smartly, and I don't know the 2.01 smart yet. But I will pay that if I have to. Don't tell anybody. Carry-on and Swift are basically at the same spot ADP-wise. Carry-on is injury-prone. Would you take Swift? I'd take Swift over Carry-on in a heartbeat, and I'm not even a huge fan of taking Swift in 2020, but he's growing on me a little bit. I do worry that it is definitely going to be a committee to an extreme degree, but at the same time, he is the better talent. Carry-on is injury-prone, and if Carry-on gets hurt, then they have no choice but to roll Swift out constantly, and he's starting to impress me more and more the more I watch him training, not so much the college football film, but watching that mixed with his training and how hard he's working, and I like that. So thanks, JD. Phone's about to die. Keep hustling. Thank you, JD. The more I look into Swift, the more I think he's actually good. And people were saying as good as people were saying. I do like Swift more and more. I'll admit that I'm backing off a little bit on that. Not a ton because I think Detroit is the concern. Detroit's the worry, the big worry there. But I think Swift, his talent, he's starting to win me over a little bit more. So I will agree with you there. Thoughts on Derrick Henry this year? I think in redraft, he's a top 10 lock. In Dynasty, I worry a bit because I think he's the kind of guy with his size, his aggressive style, the injury risk, the overworked, the workload, the fact that he's not a spring chicken. He's been in the league a while, waiting his turn, putting in the mileage. And even though he hasn't had a bunch of 1,000-yard seasons stacked up on top of each other, the wear and tear of a full NFL season, practice, everything, it still takes a toll to a significant degree. It's not like, oh, just because you didn't get starter carries during the season that if you sat on the bench for 5 years, you're fresh. You're not. Your body still ages. Your joints still weaken. Everything about the practice is still rough, and in hitting the ground over and over for a guy at that frame. I worry in Dynasty. I feel like Derrick Henry. I own him in one Dynasty league, I believe, maybe two. I think I'm going to sell high midseason when he's ripping off 100-yard games and he's looking like one of the best running backs in the league. I might pull the plug early and sell that guy for a laterally even type player that has maybe a little risk or a slow start. Let's say Ekeler started off kind of slow and through 5 weeks he hasn't quite done what we thought. He's adjusting kind of roughly to his new role, getting all the carries. But I still believe in him. That's a good swap, like to go after Ekeler and trade Henry midseason. Every year, every single year, you will see me do 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks straight in weeks 1 through 4 of buy this guy now. He busted in week 1. Oh my God, he busted in week 1 and week 2. I'm still on board. Go buy him. Oh my God, he had 3 bad weeks in a row. Week 1, week 2, week 3. He didn't do anything. Go buy him now. Week 4. Oh my God, 4 weeks in a row. Go buy him now. And week 5 on, he blows up. You never see that low value ever again. I will have that video. I will have a list of those guys in 2020. You can bet your bottom dollar it happens every year. Guys are slow starting. That's when you make those maneuvers. If you own a guy in Dynasty like a Henry, you know he's primed for a big 2020, but you don't really know what's in store for 2021. You're worried about it. Or let's say Julio Jones, you think he's got a year left. The rest of the world thinks he's got 2 or 3 years left. Pull that plug early, trade him while he's on fire, and find and target a guy that you know in your heart is going to bounce back and be the guy you know he's going to be, but he's slow starting. That's the genius craft of in-season trading that you have to master in order to dominate that facet of fantasy football. That little tiny skill set of your game as a fantasy football owner, it is an important craft, an important aspect of trading and GMing and managing that you've got to find a way to get under control and dominate, because it'll help you build. Or anybody's message is not loading. I don't know. It depends if you're pasting something over and over. It could be possible that you're triggering a spam thing. Do you think Ekeler can finish above Kamara and PPR? I think he could, for sure. They're both elite. Smitty sounding like Bill Belichick. Pull the earplug a year, pull the plug. Sorry, earplug. I'm looking at my ear and I read earplug. Pull the plug a year early instead of a year late. That's one of my biggest philosophies. Leonard Fournette, I'm pulling the plug early. I think his career. Julio Jones, 1 year, pulling the plug early. Derrick Henry, love him for the now, pulling the plug early. I'd rather jump ship early, get value that I feel I'm not going to be upset about. Like, here's the thing. When I tell you guys to avoid Mixon and he ends up doing well, let's say, what's the worst that happens? If you landed the player in place of Mixon instead, what's the big deal? You avoided a risk. The risk didn't ever end up coming around. I missed on it, but it was still a big red flag that 8 times out of 10, I think, is going to take you down, take your season down, and it's worth avoiding it for a safer player that seems like a better option. Why draft Mixon or Fournette when Ekeler and Drake are typically there as well? Why? It feels safer to go Ekeler or Drake. It's safer to go Mahomes and take a running what? Oh, Dill with the super chat. Dill, why are you so down on Mixon besides a holdout? I'll go there next, Dylan. I appreciate the super chat. You're the man. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Here's a secret weapon approach, okay? You can use this whether you're talking Mahomes or not. In fantasy football, when you waited too long on a running back and you screwed it up, You don't have a running back 2. Maybe you got Barkley, then you went wide receiver, Pat Mahomes, or wide receiver, Pat Mahomes, whatever. Kelsey, let's say you took Barkley, Evans, Kelsey, and you have no running back. And then you get to your 4th round pick and you're like, shit, there's nobody here. What do I do? I'll tell you what to do. Mark Ingram. If it's redraft, Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins together, because you can kind of get them a back-to-back pick, so like 5, 6, round 5, round 6. And yeah, you're using 2 picks on one guy, but you're securing yourself a really damn solid running back too doing that. Now in Dynasty, J.K. is going to go way early. You kind of can't do that. But in Dynasty, if you screw up at running back early on, Mark Ingram's still waiting for you. Mark Ingram still has a lot of upside for 2020. He may not have a ton of dynasty appeal, but he'll save you for 2020. And if you're going to go Mahomes early and you miss out on a running back there, Ingram is a great solution. Mahomes and Ingram, and then you pair that or pit that against what people are taking in their late QB and their early running back. So Ingram is a very, very good solution. On the topic of Mixon, I have a lot of content out there. Odell Beckham Jr. is set, and I go Odell. I take the chance. I think Odell, with Landry being hampered, and Landry may start week 1, but if he does, he won't be healthy. He won't be 100%. He get a hip issue that was projected to be like 6-month recovery time frame or more. That's a huge hip issue. That's not a small thing. A 6-month recovery window is a long time. David Johnson, I don't know. I think he could have like 6 touchdowns, something like that. I'm not banking on a ton, but Mixon, Dill. Here we go. With Fournette and Mixon, I tell you guys this over and over. I could be wrong in calling their busts. I could be wrong. But again, there are so many red flags, it's worth avoiding them and taking safer options. Fournette and Mixon, I just said it, Dill. Drake and Ekeler are there. Mahomes is there. These guys are safer options than Mixon and Fournette. Mixon busted on everybody last year. You can't tell me there's no risk with Mixon. Mixon busted on everybody last year. He came around by midseason. By that time, it was way too late for most anybody to recover. He busted. The most recent evidence I have for Mixon is that he busted on you in 2019, if you believed in him. And if you drafted Joe Mixon, you probably aren't a Mixon believer this year because you got burned. So my evidence there for Mixon, number 1, is that he busted last year for an entire half of the year. Number 2, bad decision maker on and off the field. Those things worry me. I do believe that we're living in an NFL environment now where an old situation could still come up. We're not safe. If a bad enough video clip surfaced of this guy doing something that he definitely was capable of doing back in the day when he's laying out people inside restaurants or whatever, there's that footage. Go look it up if you don't remember or never even saw it. It's brutal. And the guy is a bad decision maker. And he's not a motivated individual. He may work out well at times. There may be film of him doing good things on the field. I'm not saying you can't run into that kind of content or video clip on social media. But if you follow Joe Mixon on IG like I do, you see him going live all the time, boozing it up and not taking things completely seriously. Could he take things seriously during the day and party at night? Sure, it's possible. But I don't know about you. But from a guy that's had horrible decision making in the past, to the point where only one team, the Bengals, was going to draft him. He's so talented that only one NFL team, 31 teams, said we are not drafting him. The Bengals said we will. Mixon was 17 years old when that happened. Stop holding a grudge. That's nothing to do with it, bro. Like, it doesn't matter if he was younger. Like, that's when he came into the league. And I'm still going to use that because he is not proving to make the best decisions off the field now. He's not taking things seriously and putting in the work that these other players are putting in day by day, putting the grind and the work. Look at Hollywood Brown's IG, nothing but footwork videos. Like, I get what you're saying. If it was just this is where I come in and I say, look, I get what you're saying. And I can respect it if that was the only red flag. If it was only about that when he was 17, 18 years old and laid out a woman, it wasn't just a dude. He laid out a female, punched her, and laid her out in a restaurant. Go watch the video film. I don't care if it's 17, 18, 19 years old. It was a disgusting thing that he did. And I don't know people that did that There's a lot of people I know at 17, 18 that weren't doing that. So I don't look at that as something that is excusable just because he was younger. Oh, he's younger. I didn't. Did you do that? Did you lay out people in a restaurant, the opposite sex at 17 and 18 years old? I mean, it says something about you, bro. So not you, but of Mixon. Nobody is going to change Smitty's mind. Give up, guys. That's right. You're not going to change my mind on Mixon. What's he done since he's drafted? Red flags has he had? Red flags has he had? He didn't. He busted on everybody last year. That's one. That's one thing. He plays in an offense where he sees a lot of stacked boxes. And yes, I like Burrow for the future, but you're probably going to see teams stop Mixon all year long for the first part of the season. So there's that. There's several things. It's not one thing. What off the field flags since then? Just you could say the way that he is not practicing or keeping in shape, the fact that he's partying on IG constantly, and talk to people that follow him and watch his lives, and tell me that that's what you expect out of your player that is supposed to overcome obstacles in 2020, like stacked boxes or staying healthy. Which I get it. He didn't miss a ton of time, but he has been banged up at times. There's a lot of reasons to be worried that if he isn't taking things seriously. Smitty, I may be able to change your mind on James Conner. I'll email you. Okay, you do that. If you didn't bust Dill and you had him on your team, you did great job. You did a great job drafting. I do like that fumble stat, Roger. I do agree. Maybe he doesn't post his training videos, but it's very unlikely. Thoughts on Antonio Gibson? Where should he go in a rookie draft? I think like second round, but like top of the second round, I wouldn't be opposed. I know a lot of you don't like my Mixon take. Dill says Drake blew up at the second half of the season, so did Mixon. I think both will have a great years this season. Well, Drake blew up because he was used. Drake didn't struggle for 8 weeks. Drake was absolutely fire from the moment he entered the lineup. Mixon, I'll leave it on this because I do feel like we talk way too much about Mixon. I got enough Mixon content out there. I don't need to even. I'm probably not even going to address it anymore because all it does is upset Mixon owners. And clearly, a lot of you have Mixon already, and I'm fine with it. But this is the last I'll say on it. He has the talent, and he has the ability to prove me wrong if he was to put it all together, stay healthy, and Burrow ends up balling right from the start. I think Mixon could have a good year, but I'd rather take a safer player, a player I feel more comfortable in. If you feel comfortable with Mixon, take Mixon. Whoa, Riff with the super and MT at the same time. Riff says Aaron Jones is great. He's going in the second, early third round, yet I hear Green Bay wants the three-headed monster. Smitty, where are you taking Aaron Jones? Thank you, Riff. I'll respond to that in 1 second. MT says, happy Memorial Day. Freedom ain't free. Thank you for your service, men and women watching. Thank you, MT, for the super chat. Thank you to everybody that does serve. And, it's a sad day, but it's also a day to be thankful as well. Mahomes top 20 pick, easy. I agree. Okay, so question was by Riff, and if MT, if you have a question, toss it out. I like Aaron Jones at the right value. I like Aaron Jones at 3.02 to 3.05 range because he's your third drafted player, because you can go ahead and cuff him to AJ Dillon pretty easily. If you don't, you're an a-hole. If you miss out on cuffing him, it's an a-hole move because AJ Dillon's practically free. Don't do it. If you draft Aaron Jones, don't be an a-hole. I need to make a shirt that says that. But I love him at 3.04. Riff, I love him there. Not in every draft, maybe in one, because there's still risk. There's a reason the Packers won't rely on him. And so Aaron Jones, I did videos on him saying biggest bust candidate for 2020. He was going at 1.09, 1.10, 2.02. And sure enough, his value, not saying we are the driving force behind every player's rise and fall. I'm not that naive. But I do like to think we had a part and a hand in it. And then when A.J. Dillon was drafted, and then when Green Bay was asked if Aaron Jones has proven he's the workhorse, and their answer is we want to run a committee, everybody's jumping ship on Aaron Jones. Now, as a third drafted player, the risk is very low at what was almost first drafted player value. He was very, very risky. So I do like Aaron Jones at third drafted value, not second, but third. The problem with Aaron Jones is he's been labeled a lazy off-season guy, and he has been, and it's led to injury. It's had to led to injury because he's been hurt every freaking offseason. But I had Aaron Jones in my top 7 bold predictions for 2020 for a reason, or 2019 last year for a reason. Aaron Jones in my top 7 bold predictions. Why? Because he was ripped. He took the offseason seriously. He worked out. He was shredded. And I thought to myself, this guy, bleeding talent, is finally going to put it together and have a healthy year. And he sure did. But he's touchdown dependent. He barely had 1,000 yards, and he had 19 TDs. A very touchdown dependent player that probably had his best season he'll ever have, barely had 1,000 yards, and you're going to strip away a lot of those TDs by default because he will regress. And you bring in a TD vulture, a guy bigger than Derrick Henry, frame wise, to come in and take some touchdown work away from him on a season where he's already going to get some recidivism or whatever in terms of touchdowns. So a barely 1,000-yard guy, not going to come near 15 TDs, then going to take away more TDs because you have a vulture. That's why he falls to third round value, but that's where I like him at third round value. That's my Aaron Jones take. Thank you, Riff, again for the super chat. How will Tyrod Taylor, who I think sucks, affect the Chargers offseason, especially Ekeler, Allen, and Henry? Tyrod Taylor loves to dump off to his running back, so don't fear too much about a huge decline out of Ekeler. But I think expecting a drop off from like 100, let's say we don't expect 100 receptions out of Ekeler, we expect 80, 85. And then, yeah, that kind of sucks. But guess what? He's going to run for 400 yards more, maybe 500. What's up, Silva? Thanks, Bender. Bender says fantasy football best sleeper analyst. Thank you. How will I already answered that one. Who is lazier, Ronald Jones or Aaron Jones? I don't know, man. I'm hoping Aaron Jones turned the page, but here's the thing that concerns me with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, a lazy guy that was ripped last year that I put on my top 7 bold predictions for that reason. He's suffering through a modified offseason without any oversight. What do you think he's doing? I might be wrong. He could be pulling trucks with his teeth in his backyard, or maybe he's being lazy. Maybe he's not getting pushed to do what he did last year this offseason. So I'm worried about Aaron Jones. Now, maybe he has enough time to get ripped. Then I'll be more excited. And then in best ball drafts, if you're drafting him in the third round right now, you're cleaning up. Because if he climbs back into like top of the second because he's ripped, shredded, pulling trucks with his teeth, we're all going to be taking him in the top of the second round. And I'll adjust again if the guy comes in completely on fire and ripped and ready to roll, because I had him on my top 7 for a reason. But I adapt as I get information. And that goes the same. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about Mixon. The same thing with Mixon. If I find out Mixon's completely taking the offseason seriously from this point forward, he looks healthy, Burrow's like looking unbelievable, then I'll adjust on Mixon. That's not wishy-washy crap. That's not being hypocritical. That's adjusting and being a real human being. And I have no problem adjusting. That's why I say to people think I stick to my guns. Smitty, you just hate Mixon. You're never going to let it go. I'm admitting I would change my tune and direction if I felt like there was evidence to do so. If I see him completely taking the offseason seriously, when I already judge him, yes, I judge him a little harshly for his past, but I also know he failed everybody last year for the first half of the year. If he shows me there's no risk, I'll be back on board. Just like Cam Akers, I've been straying away from. Could I change there? Sure. Could I change? Like if Darrell Henderson got hurt, or they came out and said we're starting Akers, Akers is going to get 25 touches a game. I don't know if I'd believe the Rams, but there's reason to shift and change a little bit there. Same thing with Swift. I've been going a little bit back in the direction of liking Swift a little more each and every day, but I still worry about Detroit. Which running back class will be better, the CMC class or this one? I don't. It's hard to compare those two. I do think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be a beast, but I think the Christian McCaffrey class, it's tough to best even just McCaffrey. So McCaffrey, I think it's you can't really. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the only guy. I like J.K. Dobbins a lot too. So J.K. Dobbins and Clyde are the only guys I feel like are potentially, top five capable in fantasy football in 1 to 2 years, maybe 3 years for JK. Um, whereas, the McCaffrey class, McCaffrey's the one. I lean toward the McCaffrey side. Do you think Josh Allen will be a top five QB with Diggs? He could. Don't draft him there, but hope for it. Hope for it. Smitty, Chubb, Eckler, Drake, PPR in order, please, says Sid. I'm going to go Eckler or Drake. Again, I'm going to split that. I'm going to split it even. I'm going to say Drake in one league, Eckler in the other if I've got two side by side. Again, you're going to hear me say it like that pretty much all the time. I tend to take Chubb higher, but I'm starting to rethink that. I'm starting to think that I may let Chubb fall below Eckler and Drake. I love Chubb. I think Chubb is going to be a top 5 to 10 running back per start. Stefanski won't run two running backs any more than he ran both Madison and Cook. Stefanski came over from Minnesota. He turned Dalvin Cook into the Dalvin Cook we know and love from 2019, people. He's going to make Chubb a monster. But if Chubb does get hurt, and that's a real possibility, that's when Kareem Hunt enters the picture. Kareem Hunt can win a league for people in 2020. I love Kareem Hunt, and I want to own him in every league. That injury risk and the fact that I feel like it's really hard to cup the two together, especially if you can't trade, then you have to take Hunt at like 6.01, and that's almost too high unless you trade, like I always say, my 7th and 8th rounder to get another 6 and use 2 6, one on Hunt. I feel like Drake and Eckler are better. I think Drake with Edmonds is maybe safest. You could say Benjamin too, whatever. Maybe he becomes the backup, but I like Edmonds a lot. Edmonds proved a lot in one game, then got hurt. 3 TDs, one game, boom, got hurt. Drake came in. Drake was on fire. Drake and Edmonds together feels safe. The offense is fantastic. The offense is going to make a top 5 to 10 running back. If Edmonds were starting and Drake got hurt, Edmonds would be a top 10 running back. So Drake and Edmonds will be my final answer there. I'm out of here. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate Riff. I appreciate MT. I appreciate everybody else that super chatted. Dill. If I miss anybody, I'm sorry. Big things to come for 2020, guys. I'm just getting started. And I feel like this content, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, I don't care. I'm not taking anything personally. Like my ball, Zach Ertz, I love that you love Mixon and you're passionate about Mixon. We're on the same team, bro. I don't care if we disagree on 10 players, 15 players. We bring the respect each other's way. I still respect you. I still respect all of you. We are going to climb and make this show the best show. And it already feels like the best show in the world, but we're going to make everybody else aware of that. And only big things to come. Let's make this 10 to 2 show regular. I want that. I want it to be that big. Appreciate all of you. Thank you.